off, put them away. All right, let's see if we can do this now, StreamYard. Stop kicking me out. Oh, I need to turn down my phone. All right, here we go, you guys. Do it again.
So we have witnesses anticipated for today and tomorrow, just to confirm, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, we do.
Thank you. Do we know who on today? Hopefully someone on the witness list. You can sit down as soon as you come out, folks. You stand for you. Please be seated, everyone. Good morning, you guys are getting good at that. You're going in a line now. Practice. Any concerns or any issues you have to bring to our attention? All right. Good news, seeing none. We'll resume with the testimony of Ms. Mitchell, correct?
Yes, Judge, I believe she was on the witness.
Sergeant, can you ask her to come back in? Wait, ma'am. Since this is a different day, ma'am, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand again, and before we'll swear you in again for today.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. Sit down,
Thank you.
please.
Please be seated.
Your full name again.
Brianna Mitchell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galucci.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, Ms. Mitchell.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Opportunity to meet with either one of these prosecutors?
I did not.
You didn't talk to anybody about this case after you left here in court?
No.
So yesterday we discussed a video that you had taken the morning you dropped Corey off at Christmas house.
Yes.
You said that you had taken that video and that it was accidental, that you had no idea you had taken it. Am I right?
You're right.
Now, on direct examination, you said that as you were driving to Christopher's home, your son was on your phone watching YouTube videos.
Yeah, he would give me my phone back when Christopher texted me and when we got to his house.
Okay. So you're saying that he gave you your phone back, you turned off YouTube, and then accidentally hit the camera?
I must have, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that's the first time you ever did that?
Yes.
Now, yesterday you also testified that you left community medical center against medical advice because you thought it would be quicker to get, correct?
Yes.
And look, this is D. 7. Show you D7. Take a look.
What do you want me to read? You want me to just look at it? Okay. Yes.
Okay. Now, does that refresh your recollection as to why you left Jersey Shore Medical Center?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us what you did, what you told them at Jersey Shore
Um,
Medical Center?
It says, given that she needs to bring her husband, or her child to her husband within the next few hours.
So you didn't leave because you wanted to get to Jersey Shore Medical Center. You left, according to that record, you told people at a hospital that you wanted to take your son to his father.
Yes. That's what I said yesterday. I didn't.
That hospital,
Yes.
Community Medical Center, advised you to not take your child from the hospital.
It says they offered to transfer the patient, and then it also says he gave me the opportunity to leave at the hospital
Let's read the whole thing.
against medical advice.
Against medical advice. So they wanted you to leave Corey at the hospital and have him transported to another hospital. And you said no.
I drove him myself.
Have this marked as D8.
Thank you. Yeah. AMA.
May I? Judge? Yes. Of course. You show you it's been marked as D8.
Yep.
Is that a release that, it says signature, did you sign that for Corey?
Yes.
Okay. And does that refresh your recollection as to what you signed when you left the hospital?
Yes.
Okay, and is that a release
Yes.
saying that they advised you not to take Corey from that hospital and they needed to take him to another hospital?
Yes.
Now, yesterday, I believe we testified. Yeah, thank you. That there was some point that you lived in Florida.
Yes.
And how long did you live in Florida?
A few years.
Do you remember what those years were?
15, 16.
And you had Corey with you, right?
Yes.
And your mother and your father, am I right?
Correct.
And what was your father's name again?
Vito.
Now, while in Florida, did there come a point where you,
Objection, Judge. This is really outside the scope. We didn't go into this area whatsoever.
Council, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Please go into your room. Again, don't discuss anything. As soon as we are done, we'll bring that up.
Sir, can you just leave your headphones there?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's 9:41 a.m. At sidebar, state objected to certain testimony that defense counsel intends to elicit, evidently regarding Ms. Mitchell and where she was living at certain times. All this information is new to the court. Neither side has made a motion in limine either to admit it or to bar it. So the court will conduct the 104A hearing to determine whether or not the testimony is admissible. Mr. Gallucci, let me ask this way. Any objection? Mr. Gallucci proceeds along his line of questioning for me to determine what he's going to elicit, or is this something the state wants to bring out? You're objecting to it, right?
We are, Judge, yeah.
All right, so you're the proponent of it then, so you should go first as the proponent, and tell me what you see to elicit.
Ms. Mitchell, there came a time when you lived in Florida that you gave Corey to a woman named Teresa Tunstall who lived in Pennsylvania.
Incorrect.
Incorrect?
Yes,
That's it, Judge. The answer is no.
that's how it
All right,
should
so,
be.
but in abundance of caution, what I said is sidebars. The parties have mentioned Pennsylvania. You have witnesses from Pennsylvania. Is that, this is one question, but are you going to do anything else with respect to that now?
With this witness?
Well, at least with this witness, right?
With this witness, no, but will I call Ms. Tunstall? I may.
All right.
I may.
So then I would like you to confer with the state on that, and the two of you to give me some notice in advance, so we can perhaps do a 104 hearing at 9 in the morning before we bring the jury over or something to determine that the state's represented, that whatever occurred before Mr. Gregor was advised, was made aware of the allegation he was the biological father. So you would have to demonstrate for me why that's relevant to issues in this case, something that occurred before his involvement in the child's life. It may be, but it may not be. If it's relevant, it may be prejudicial value may be outweighed by what little probative value it may have as well.
Yeah.
I can't make that determination unless I know more about what's to be said.
Just before the jury gets pulled back in, can I just have one moment?
Sure, yeah, I told him go in there and have some coffee and some snacks, so I certainly didn't think it was a 104 hearing was gonna take 30 seconds. If I knew she was gonna say incorrect, then we wouldn't have excused the jury, but the state appeared concerned that there was a long line of information here.
Roger, can I continue questions, Professor?
What's the profit?
I'm gonna ask her if she knows Ms. Tunstall.
All right, go ahead.
Do you know Ms. Tunstall?
No.
Any objections by Officer Bennett, tell them to knock when they're ready, in case they just pour a cup of coffee or something like that.
There's no objection, Judge, thank you.
All right, you can just tell them to knock when they're ready.
Just let us know when you guys are ready. You want to get your coffee, your snack, or let us know to knock on the way back out.
We're going to continue with the testimony. Mr. Galucci.
Your Honor, I'm finished with that.
Very good. Any redirect?
I do, Judge, just a few.
Please go ahead.
So Brianna, on October 28th of 2020, you and the defendant were granted joint custody, right?
Correct.
And previous to this, you did not have custody of Corey. It was your mother.
Correct.
And on April 1st of 2021, you picked up Corey and took him to the pediatrician.
Correct.
And this was during your visitation time with Corey, right?
Correct.
And while you were at the pediatrician or on your way to community medical center, you received the order from the family courts where your application for full custody was denied.
Correct.
So when you received this order, you had already been at the pediatrician.
Yes.
And while you were at community medical center, you actually spoke to the defendant.
Yes.
And you told him that you were taking Corey to Jersey Shore Medical Center.
Right. Yes.
And the defendant actually called the police.
Yes.
And you told the defendant that he could go to Jersey Shore Medical Center.
Objection.
Correct.
What's the objection?
It's relevant, it's hearsay, it's everything.
Well, it's leading. It's a little bit leading. I know you're trying to direct your testimony to be less leading. In terms of parties notifying each other about the child, that was the subject of cross-examination to a great extent about the pediatrician visit. So it's permissible in order to provide context to the conversation. So we'll accept the leading nature.
So while you were at Jersey Shore Medical Center, you had a conversation with the defendant.
Yes.
Now, did you offer to bring Corey home back to Barnegat after Jersey Shore Medical Center?
Yes.
And did the defendant ever respond to your request to do this?
No.
And while Corey was at Jersey Shore Medical Center, was he ever diagnosed with sepsis?
No.
And was Corey medically cleared from Jersey Shore Medical Center?
Yes.
And was there a scheduled appointment for April 2nd for Corey to see a CPC pediatric specialist?
Yes.
And did the defendant cancel this appointment?
Yes.
And did you take Corey to, could you take Corey to see the specialist without the defendant?
No, he wouldn't allow it.
And when you dropped off Corey on April 2nd, what choice did you have in bringing him back to his father's house?
Well, he already called the cops on me for kidnapping, so I didn't really have any other choice, just for keeping him a few hours late at the hospital.
Can I see the defense exhibit? The community cell. Let me show them. You want permission to approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Now, Brianna, you took Corey to Community Medical Center, correct?
Yes.
And I'm now showing you what's been marked D7 for identification purposes. And can you read this paragraph in terms of the emergency department course and treatment, the entire paragraph?
Starting here, patient seen.
Yes, please.
Patient seen and examined in the emergency department. History and physical obtained. Prior medical records requested and reviewed. Initial assessment and exam completed. I had an extensive. I offered to transfer the patient to Jersey Shore Medical Center, where the CPAP specialist, as well as his pediatrician, were located for further management.
Community Medical Center, right?
Yes.
And that's a standard release form that would be utilized regarding any patient who would sign a child out of the hospital.
Correct.
And your purpose, again, of signing Corey, get there faster.
Correct.
Now, in regard to a private Facebook group chat for Corey, then it would have to be an accepted friend request.
Yes.
Objection needed.
Can you describe the website?
Yeah,
or the
so
Facebook chat?
it's a Facebook group. If you want to join, you have to answer a few questions, and then an admin has to approve you to join the group. And if you want to post, then it gets approved.
Are a part of the purpose of setting up justice for Corey.
To get justice for Corey.
And in particular, there are members who were on the
Like, so most of it was spent for his funeral, and then the other was spent for a plot for myself in the cemetery with him. So when I pass, I can be buried next to him.
and there was a GoFundMe page set up.
That's what that was.
And what were the expenses for the GoFundMe page for?
That was for the funeral and the plot.
And what about this Cash App? Can you explain to the jurors what that was for?
Yes, so members were asking one of the admins if they could help us with just like everyday things. So the admin decided to set it up. Just so people were just saying like, go get some coffee, go get dinner. They just wanted to help.
And did you set up this Cash App?
No.
And who set up the Cash App?
One of the members.
And that would be for donations.
Yes.
We don't have any further questions, Judge.
Any report?
Did you use any of those donations to buy the fish that you threw at the Gregor?
I did not. No.
Now, you said that you paid for the,
No.
they did?
No. No, you didn't.
So
I'm sorry.
what's a chat group?
It's a group.
Are you one of the administrators?
I'm one of them, yes.
Who set it up?
I did,
You did.
yes.
And when you set it up, you set yourself up, I don't understand it, but you set yourself up as the administrator, right?
Yes.
And the administrator is the person that's in charge of the group.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when you set up a Facebook chat group, you as the administrator set up the rules, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the rules are, like you just told Ms. Lento, are I can let people in if I choose to, or not let people in as I choose to. Right?
Right.
And initially, that group,
For like a month, yeah.
okay, and then,
Very beginning.
okay, and then it was not, became private.
Yes.
And who did that?
The admins made a decision.
Okay,
We had a conversation and decided.
so you're the initial administrator, right?
Correct.
And now you said that there are additional admins.
Correct.
How many?
There is 2 others.
Okay, and do you know who those people are?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you just said you had a meeting with your admins,
Yes.
and at that meeting, you and your other 2 administrators, I'm assuming that's what you're called, right?
Yes.
Made a decision to make this group private.
Yes.
So when you say you don't know who's in the group, are you saying that you set rules up on who could get in the group? You have to answer questions?
Yes.
And if you answer the questions in a way you or the other 2 administrators don't like, then you don't let them in your group.
Correct.
But if they answer the questions right,
Mhm.
then you let them in the group.
Right.
No further questions.
Thank you.
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
And thanks so much for coming in. You're excused.
Judge, can we just have a moment to go check?
Sure.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the next witness will be here at 10:15. She's coming from work. I apologize.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, that happens. Frankly, we have no idea if this would be, Ms. Lowe's testimony would be long or short today, so it's understandable. So, 15 minutes, do you mind going to the jury room, or do you want to go back to jury assembly? Your choice. Sure? Perfect. They designed them, no one anticipated, what it's really like for a jury to be in a room. I can't do it by ourselves. I can have you come to sidebar with the attorneys.
I just want to apologize.
Certainly not necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessary at all, but thank you for that. Number initially, it was Mr. Gucci thought that would be an expert witness, and he asked to be able to have his expert view that testimony. Ms. Schroen clarified that the witness is acting as a physician, but being called as a result of factual observations or treatment, not as an expert. Mr. Gucci, do you still ask to have your expert, Dr. Bodden, be able to view that testimony of the non-expert medical witness?
Judge, I would prefer it, but I understand the state's position that they agree to him watching expert testimony. I would just ask that if they're going to call an expert, that I be allowed to know that, so I could alert Dr. Bodden to the fact that an expert is testifying, and so he could watch that testimony instead of me willy-nilly just pulling him out of the emergency room. That's the only courtesy I ask.
Certainly.
Judge, of course, the state doesn't have a problem doing that, so.
And so this witness is acting as a physician who's going to testify about treatment, not render opinions.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, the court is guided by State versus Popovich, 405 New Jersey Super 324, an appellate division case from 2009, where that issue was addressed. The purpose of the sequestration order is to be able to be sure that for fact testimony, the jury is getting the testimony of the witness based upon that witness's personal knowledge, not things the witness learned from viewing testimony of others, and therefore could potentially be able to fill in gaps in that witness's own testimony. Sequestration is permitted by New Jersey Rule of Evidence 615. The parameters of the sequestration order generally rest within the discretion of the trial judge. In the case of expert witness, though, the risk of influencing someone's testimony is not does not rise to the same level of concern. The experts are already on opposite sides, are already rendering contrary opinions. They're considered professionals that obviously have to be qualified by training, skill, or experience, and they're distinguishable from fact witnesses in that regard. So permitting an expert to view the testimony of another expert does not raise the risks associated with fact witnesses doing so. And under Popovich, I find it's appropriate for each side to be able to have its counterpart expert, so forensic pathologist or infectious disease expert, view the testimony from the opposing expert, and that can either be done by the expert coming into court and sitting in person, or if that person's comfortable watching whatever is broadcast. I would note that whatever is broadcast, though, is beyond our control. The court is not broadcasting anything. So if whatever services are broadcasting this do not broadcast in the entirety of it, then that's at the expert's own risk. If they break to another video, then the court can't remedy that. So, Mr. Gallucci, did you hear that last part I just indicated? If your expert's going to watch some broadcast, I can't guarantee that some media outlet is going to broadcast the entire thing. So if Dr. Bodden comes here and watches it, it's fine. But if the media outlet breaks to another video feed and doesn't stay with our testimony, then I'm not going to have it redone for Dr. Bodden, so, or anyone else.
That is completely understandable.
All right, so the court's order on sequestration is then modified with respect to experts based upon the positions of the parties. I think what we should do is we should ask juror number 3 to come out, and yes, counsel will join me at sidebar with that. And I ask either Corporal Bennett or Sergeant Dugan just to politely ask juror number 3 to join us, and the others to stay in the jury room. Conversation at sidebar and information disclosed by the, we'll proceed then with 15, and I'll just advise, unless there's any objection by counsel, I'll just advise the remaining jurors that we're continuing without number 3. She's been excused. They shouldn't be concerned with the reason why she was excused. Any objection to that?
No, Judge, thank you.
3 hours. All right, please be seated, everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've excused juror number 3. You shouldn't be concerned about that. There's nothing to be for you to be concerned. We're just going to continue with the 15 of you. And apparently, she took the wrong phone, so we're going to make sure she puts that phone back. She takes the correct phone, and we also will bring back in the tote of all the phones. I believe the state is ready for its next witness. Ms. Strong.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would like to call Kim Peace.
Peace,
Yes.
Kim Peace.
Kim Peace?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
If you could please come on up. And remain standing and raise your right hand. The court reporter will swear you in.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have a seat, please. State your full name for the record. Stop open your name.
Kim Peace.
Spell your name.
Oh, Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Strong.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Peace.
Good morning.
Who do you work for?
I work for the Barnegat Township School District.
Okay. And in what capacity do you work for the Barnegat Township School District?
I am a first grade general education teacher.
And how long have you worked there?
I've been in Barnegat for 19 years.
Have you always worked in that school, in that capacity for the Barnegat Township School District?
No, I started at the Lillian and Dumpy School. Then they grade banded. So for the past 3 years, I've been in the Collins School.
Can you explain what that means to me?
Oh, so when we grade band, so we were a K through 5 building. Then when they grade banded, so there was 4 K through 5 buildings, they grade banded. So now they have a preschool, 1 building, a K through 2 building, 3 and 4, and so on.
So then you moved to the Collins School to keep with the grade that you were teaching?
I did.
Okay. And what year did you move to the Collins School?
2020.
And that school year, first grade teacher?
Yes,
Did you attend college?
I did.
Could you tell us about that?
I went to Stockton and I got my bachelor's degree and my teaching certification.
Were you employed as a teacher anywhere prior to the Barnegat Township School District?
Yes. So I started as a preschool teacher and at a private preschool. Then I moved to the Head Start again as another preschool program.
And what is Head Start?
It's we provide preschool experiences for income eligible families.
So bringing your attention to the 20, at that point in time, was school proceeding in a standard way?
It was not.
Could you explain that to us?
We were on a hybrid model. So we had broken our classes up into two groups. Group would come in on Mondays and Wednesdays in person.
At some point in time during, with certain COVID exceptions, did the format of school change?
Gym and art and music.
Is it fair to say then that you were with Corey for 8 a.m. How many teachers were assigned to your class?
There
at that time?
were 3 teachers. There was myself as the general education teacher. There was a special ed teacher that came to teach math with me, and then another special education teacher to teach reading with me.
Were you considered the main or head teacher for the
I
class?
was the classroom teacher. That's what they call it.
And how many students were in the class that year?
I about 20.
Would you ever communicate with your students' parents?
Yes.
How would you do that?
I used an app called Class Dojo.
Could you describe the jury how it works?
Sure. So it is an app that the teacher on their phones and the parent phones. You can text them or message them their information about the class.
How would parents get into Class Dojo?
I had to send an email to the parents with a link to join the
Did some of you use your class, or did the whole school use the Class Dojo?
Most of the teachers use Class Dojo in my school.
And did you have a conversation with the aide and person taking care of your classroom about Corey when you returned to school?
Yeah, I did.
And as a result of your conversation with that person, did you do anything with was Corey there on Tuesday?
Yes.
And where did you first see Corey that day? Okay.
I saw not a burn, but like it looked like kind of like a rug burn thing on his forehead.
And where when you made the actual observation?
I was in front of the classroom as I came in.
Now, had you seen Corey in school that Friday? S40. Could you take a look at S40?
Yes.
What's S40?
It's our Genesis attendance calendar.
Okay. Did looking at S40 help refresh your recollection with regard to Corey's attendance on March 19th?
Okay, March 19th, he was present.
Okay, thank you. So, do you recall seeing the mark on his forehead, the abrasion, on March 19th before the weekend on Corey?
No.
The first time you saw it was when you returned on the 23rd.
Exactly.
When you saw the injury to Corey, did you try to talk to Corey about what had happened to him?
I did.
And where was the conversation?
In the corner of my room, like behind my desk.
Were there other children around?
They were they were backed up in the classroom there.
Without telling me anything that he said, what was Corey's demeanor during the conversation that you had with him?
Just kind of like quiet, would just answer one word question, answer with one word.
Was that different than his normal demeanor?
Yeah, because he was able to like have a back and forth conversation and it would flow, but this was kind of just like one word answers.
What was Corey's demeanor like the rest of the day after you talked to him about the injury that he had?
I didn't notice anything else. He was quite normal after that.
And after you spoke to Corey on the 23rd, what, if anything, did you do with regard to Corey?
On that day or?
On that day. Did you tell anybody about it on that day?
Objection to leaving.
It's overruled. It's appropriate to direct your attention.
Can you repeat the question?
I hope so. Did you talk to anyone about Corey after what happened that day? On that day?
I spoke with people that I work with, my co-teachers, and I know definitely the co-teachers.
Did you send Corey to the nurse that day?
I didn't.
Why didn't you send Corey to the nurse?
Because he had already gone on Monday, and the nurse had shared information with my co-teacher who passed what she did on to me.
Why did you speak with other teachers that you worked with about Corey and what you observed and spoke to him about?
Out of concern, we wanted to see what each other were thinking.
Do you recall what Corey's attendance was during the week of March 22nd?
He was present the whole week, but he was absent on that Friday, the 26th.
And what type of absence did he have on Friday the 26th?
We would call it an unverified because no parent contacted the school to say that their student was going to be absent. So if someone called, it would be verified. If they don't call us, we consider unverified.
So nobody verified why Corey was out of school on March 26th?
No.
And what about the following week, the week of March 29th? What was Corey's attendance?
Corey was, he participated in school, but he went on the computer. He stayed home and went on the computer.
Could you tell me how that came about?
I got a message on Class Dojo from Mr. Gregor stating that he was with the other side of the family. There was a mass gathering, so he's going to keep him home to quarantine him that week.
When did you receive that message?
It was on Sunday, so Sunday the 28th.
Do you remember exactly what time you got it?
It was later in the day.
Do you remember the exact time?
No.
Would anything help refresh your recollection with respect to the exact time?
If I saw the messages, it has a timestamp on it.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, certainly.
I'm showing you what's been marked as S41 for identification. Could you take a look at it?
Yes,
Do you recognize S41?
I do.
What is S41?
So it's the message from Mr. Gregor.
Does S41 help refresh your recollection with regard to what time the message was sent?
Yes, it was 7:53 in the evening.
7:53 p.m.?
Yes.
Is that a complete and accurate copy of the message that you received?
It is.
Could you tell me specifically what the message said?
Sure, I'll read it.
Yes, please.
Hey, I just found out Corey's other side of the family had left the state and saw him this weekend after being at a mass gathering, so he will not be at school this week. Also, the week following spring break, he will not be there because he will be on vacation with me in Key West. In order to do the virtual learning, is there anything we need other than logging on to Google Classroom?
Is that the entirety of the message?
Yes.
Mr. Trump, I'm going to interrupt you. So, ladies and gentlemen, recall yesterday I gave you an instruction on statements. So this is electronically recorded written statement. There is for your consideration at this time a statement which was electronically written and recorded, allegedly made by the defendant. It is your function to determine whether or not the statement was actually made by the defendant, and if made, whether the statement or any portion of it is credible. In considering whether or not the statement is credible, you should take into consideration the circumstances and facts as to how the statement was made, as well as all the other evidence in this case relating to the issue. If after your consideration of these factors, you determine the statement was not actually made, or that the statement is not credible, then you must disregard the statement completely. If you find that the statement was made and that all or part of the statement is credible, you may give it what weight you think appropriate to that portion of the statement you find to be truthful and credible. Again, I'll always provide these instructions to you again at the end of the case. Thank you very much.
Ms. Peace, I want to direct your attention to the school calendar schedule at that point in time. Now, you just read in the message that Corey would be out the week of March 29th, correct?
That's correct.
What day of the week was March 29th?
That was a Monday.
Okay. Did your school have a spring break?
The following week was our spring break.
So when would your spring break have started? On what date?
It actually started on Friday, April 2nd.
Are you referring to S40, the school calendar?
I am.
And is it helping to refresh your
Yes,
recollection?
yes.
And so I'm sorry, I missed it. What date would spring break have started?
It started on the Friday, April 2nd.
Okay, so that means there was no school on Friday, April 2nd?
That's correct.
Do you know why there was no school that day?
It was Good Friday.
And so when would spring break have ended?
It would have ended, so the following week, the 5th, and it would have ended on the 9th.
And did you say something about a vacation in the message?
I did.
So Corey's time out of school began on March 26th, correct?
Right, because he wasn't present on March 26th.
And when then would you have expected him back in school?
When they returned. So if he went virtual on the 29th, I would expect him back when we return from spring break, which would have been the 12th.
And what about with the vacation?
Then I wouldn't have expected him back till the following week.
And when did that weekend?
So
The following weekend.
End.
Yeah, the date.
Yeah, okay. It would have ended on April 23rd.
So he would have been out of school physically from March 26th to April 23rd?
That's correct.
Okay. So did Corey participate in school after you received that message on the evening of March 28th?
He did. He participated virtually.
Okay, tell me about that. What interaction would you have with a student when they're virtual?
We would have what's called a Google Meet. So any students that were virtual would join our Google Meet, and we would do our math lesson and our reading lesson.
So on March 29th, did you take attendance with your in-person students and your virtual students?
Yes,
What was Corey's attendance?
he was present
Virtually?
virtually.
And were you able to see him virtually?
I was.
And what, if any, observations did you make of Corey when you saw him virtually on March 29th?
I saw bruises on his cheek.
Is that the same as what you were describing from March 23rd?
No,
And did Corey attend school virtually on March 30th?
yes,
Did you observe him?
yes.
What, if any, observations did you make?
The bruising still.
Did Corey attend school virtually on March 31st?
Yes.
What day of the week would that have been?
That was a Wednesday.
Did you observe him?
Yes.
What, if any, observations did you make?
The same, the bruising.
Were you able to observe his demeanor since you were virtual?
It's hard because they're not very comfortable. So he was kind of just sitting there and just answering questions. And
What about Corey's attendance on Thursday, April 1st?
I didn't hold meetings with my virtual students because that was like a party day before our spring break.
So if students had attended virtually on April 1st, they would have had to watch the party?
That would have been, oh, yes, April 1st. Yes, exactly. There wasn't any teaching going on. So
Corey missed the party.
right.
And April 2nd was Good Friday?
Yes.
No school.
No school.
That week, the week of March 29th, did you speak to anyone about Corey?
I did.
All right. Tell me, when was the first time you spoke to someone about Corey that week?
I believe it was the Monday, the 29th. I received a phone call.
Okay. Without telling me what that person said, who called you?
A DIFUS worker.
Do you remember that person's name?
I do.
Okay. What's the person's name?
Valerie Allegory.
All right. And did you have a conversation with her?
I did.
And did you talk about Corey?
Yes.
And why did you talk about Corey to that worker when she called you?
Because I wanted to voice my concern about the series of events that were leading the past couple of weeks, and that I felt something wasn't right.
Something wasn't right with what?
Seeing the bruising, seeing the injury in the forehead, and then him not being there virtual, or him going virtual on that 29th.
And after your conversation that you just described, did you have any other conversations that week with anyone about Corey?
I did.
When was the next conversation you had with someone about Corey?
It was the next day.
And the next day, who did you speak with?
I don't know his name. I think his first name was Mark.
And how did that conversation come about? Did you call him? Did he call you, or something else?
I called him
And how did you get his phone number?
from from Valerie the day before.
And when you called Mark, did you actually talk to Mark?
I did.
And why did you call Mark?
Because I wanted to voice my concerns and tell him what I saw and how I felt like I did not feel good about what I was seeing and what I was hearing.
And did you in fact do that?
I did.
So after seeing Corey in school on March 25th in person, did you ever see Corey Michelot in person again?
No.
No further questions.
Thank you. Oh, I can speak.
Okay.
So, would you agree with me that the person you primarily spoke with respect to Corey and his educational needs was Christopher?
That's correct.
Would you agree with me that he was interested in Corey's education?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that he was engaged with class dojo?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that in addition to class dojo, Mr. Gregor actually worked out a system with you in person when he would pick, by the way, how did Corey get to school?
I believe Mr. Gregor dropped him off, but I wouldn't know.
Do you know how he got home?
Mr. Gregor would pick him up.
Okay, so Mr. Gregor would pick him up. Did Mr. Gregor work out a system with you to talk about Corey?
Yes.
Okay. And would that system be a thumbs up and a thumbs down?
Correct.
Okay, so if it was a thumbs up, I'm assuming, well, I shouldn't assume. What did a thumbs up mean?
Thumbs up means great day.
Okay. Thumbs down?
I really would not give a thumbs down. If it wasn't a good day, I would message him to let him know what happened.
And how many times do you think in the time you were with Corey that you actually had to message him about Corey having a
I
bad
would
day?
I would just maybe about 4 times.
And usually what was that about?
It mostly was his behavior, like in the bathroom, just playing with soap or an interaction with another student. That's about
Okay. But as far as, how long did you teach him from September to March?
March. Yes.
So would you say that Corey came to school on time each day?
Yes.
Okay, would you say that he was ready to learn?
Yes.
Would you say that he was well kept, like he came dressed appropriately?
Yeah.
Would you say that he needed everything he needed for the day in school?
He had it. Yes.
At that point, were you working on what's called a hybrid model
At what point?
when you first began in September?
Yes, it was a hybrid model.
Okay, and what is that mean, hybrid model?
That we broke the class into 2 groups. One group came into school on Monday and Wednesday. The second group would come into school on Tuesday and Thursday.
So the group that would be in school on Tuesday, Thursday, the other group that would be Monday, Wednesday, would they be virtual?
No, they would basically be home working on assignments that we sent home with them. So they would, unless they needed assistance some way, I could meet with them at the end of the day. But really, they were home working independently.
And when did the virtual classroom, the model you just talked about, the hybrid model, when did that end?
In January.
January. Now, you testified that there were days that Corey appeared virtually.
Correct.
When a student appeared virtually, was that an absence?
No.
So you talked about something called an unverified absence.
Correct.
Okay, and that was when on the 20th?
That was it was Friday, March 26th.
Okay. So on March 26th, you had what you consider an unverified absence because Corey didn't appear in school nor virtually.
Correct.
Did you you've had contact with Mr. Gregor this whole time, right, on Class Dojo?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Did you contact him on Class Dojo and ask him where he was?
No, we didn't typically do that if it was one day.
Okay. And then I believe you got the email that Sunday?
Sunday, yes.
Sunday, and it was Sunday after 6.
Yeah,
Right?
yes.
That you got an email that Corey had traveled out of state, was at some sort of gathering, and he was gonna go virtually.
Correct.
Okay. Now, when he attended virtually, did he appear every one of those days?
You did.
Did he appear with the camera on?
Yes.
So now, as a school teacher, when you're teaching a class, and you have some students that are appearing virtually, and you will have some students that are appearing live, how does one do that?
Well, my students in class would be at their desks or on the carpet area. And right in front of me, I had a cart with a Chromebook on it so that I could be right in front of the computer.
So you are simultaneously, and I'm not a teacher, I'm just a oral country lawyer here. You're simultaneously watching a live class and teaching,
Yes.
and at the same time looking at a Chromebook at the students that are there.
Yes.
So your first priority, I would assume, is to take attendance, who's here, who's not.
Correct.
So you got your live class, they're all here, and then you look at your Chromebook, boop, 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 they're all here.
Right.
And on every one of those days, Corey was there.
Yeah, the Monday through Wednesday, but I told him he didn't have to come on Thursday
Why didn't he have to come Thursday?
because it was having a class party, and I don't kind of mean to tell the virtual kids, "Oh, come watch the party."
Was he the only kid appearing virtually?
No.
How many kids would you say were appearing virtually?
I had there was about 4 others that were on virtual.
So you thought it was not really a good idea for a child to appear virtually for a party, to attend a virtual
Right,
party?
there wasn't any learning going on, so they didn't need to do that.
Okay. So you excused Corey on that day?
Yes, all students are.
So now, the message you got on Class Dojo, you just testified on direct that he wasn't gonna be in school, I believe you said, till April 23rd.
Correct.
But didn't Mr. Gregor say in his Class Dojo that he would be appearing virtually?
But I would, right, so he appeared virtually on the week of the 29th, but I didn't see him in person.
Okay.
It was,
But he appeared.
He did.
virtually. And now you were talking about this Key West trip, and you were going on spring break, and on spring break, your spring break, I guess, was the week of April 2nd, and Mr. Gregor had notified you that he was gonna be in Key West on vacation, right?
yes,
With Corey.
yes.
Okay. And then he says, in order to do the virtual learning, is there anything I need to do other than logging on to Google Classroom?
Correct.
So he's telling you, am I right, in that, let's go, it's like an email system, right?
Yes,
Where you
the
communicate
messaging.
with the other parent. So you're messaging back and forth. He's telling you, I'm taking him on vacation to Key West, and he's going to appear virtually. So that would be in attendance, right?
I thought it was considered a vacation. If you're talking about the 12th, I was considering that a vacation. He wasn't going to be.
What doesn't he say in it?
Well, I took it as he was talking about when he stated he only stated he was going to be going to virtual on the 29th.
But do you still have their exhibit in front of you?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go to 3/28/21 at 7:53:44. It's here 19:53:44. Now, why don't we read that?
Hey, I just found out Corey's other side of the family had left the state and saw him this weekend after being at a mass gathering, so he will not be at school this week. Also, the week following spring break, he will not be there because he will be on vacation with me in Key West. In order to do virtual learning, is there anything we need in order need other than logging onto Google Classroom.
And now, I mean, you just read that the way it was given to you, right?
I did.
Okay, so after he tells you that he's going to be in Key West on vacation, he then follows that with, after he tells you that, in order to do virtual learning, is there anything we need other than logging into Google Classroom? And you took that to mean that he's not going to appear virtually?
When he was in Key West.
Well, where does he say that?
If he said vacation, then I considered it that they were going on vacation. That it wouldn't be that they were logging on virtually. That was my assumption.
But doesn't he not say in that email, what do I have to do for his virtual learning other than signing into the Google account?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess you assumed that meant he's going on vacation and he just threw that in there?
I thought he wanted to tell me he wasn't going to be in attendance.
At
He
all?
wouldn't be coming back, yes.
Attendance in person or attendance?
Either
virtual?
way, it was not clear to me if he was going to be there or not. If someone says vacation, I'm thinking you're on vacation. You're not, nobody's working, nobody's going to school.
Okay, so that was on 3/28, right?
Correct.
Did you then give him any information, ask him? Did you say to him, hey, Mr. Gregor, on Class Dojo, do you mean that he's going to be attending virtually? Or are you telling me he's going to be absent?
I don't have the messages, but I did not. After that,
Where are we absent? May I, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Peace, do you know what that is?
their Class Dojo messages.
Are those the D9, is that the dojo messages that apply to your conversations with Mr. Gregor in their entirety?
Yes.
So on 3/28 at 7:53, he gives you that message that Corey is appearing virtually this week because his family had him at a class gathering, and he did appear virtually that week, right?
Yes.
Okay. And he did appear on camera, right?
Correct.
When you teach virtually, do the children have to remain on camera all the time?
Yes.
And he was there on camera.
Yes.
And by the way, that's how you were able to make whatever observation you made, right?
Correct.
So while he appeared on camera that week, you then, in that same message, he tells you he's going to be on vacation with me in Key West. And then he says virtual learning, right?
Correct.
And is there anything else he needs to do, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, after that, you just told me you don't know if he meant that he's coming to school, not going to school, or appearing virtually, right? You just said that.
Yes.
So can you show me the message to Mr. Gregor where you said, because you're so concerned about Corey, can you show me the message you sent to Mr. Gregor saying, can I have a clarification? Are you telling me he's not going to be in school a whole week? Are you telling me he's appearing virtually a whole week? Where's that?
I did not. I just sent that I would forward the information to the nurse and to his social worker. I did not ask for clarification.
Is that concerning to you that he was going to be out of school that whole time?
It was.
Okay, but you didn't ask him. What you said is,
When someone tells me they're going on vacation, I consider it a vacation.
Even if they tell you, how do I sign? Is virtual? Can I do virtual? It says that right there.
Well, I was thinking that it was only the week of the 29th.
But it comes after him requesting, telling you he's going to Key West. That sentence comes after. Yeah?
Correct.
So let's get back to Corey. When Corey would come to school, was his work always done from the previous night?
Mostly.
What's Google Classroom?
Google Classroom is a way to meet virtually with people.
With students or with?
Students, you could use it, and you could use it with other teachers, but it's how we met with our
Would
students.
you on Google platform meet with students to give them additional assignments?
It was to do the lesson of the day, and if I needed to work with them, work one-on-one with them, I would be able to do that too.
And did Corey participate in that?
Yes.
Was he active in class?
In class in general or in the Google
In
Meets?
class.
Yes, he was, yes.
Did he work cooperatively with his peers and the other teachers?
Yes.
Did you think that Mr. Gregor actively communicated with you through emails in Class Dojo?
Yes.
Did he always attend meetings to discuss Corey's academic progress?
We had, I think, virtual meetings that year, and I don't remember if he attended. I don't remember
So,
who attended that year.
when you say who?
Parent-wise, when we had parent-teacher conferences, we had them virtually. So I can't recollect who actually showed up on these Google. We would do Google Meets to meet with them.
So you would have a Google Meet meeting with the parents, like we used to, your parents used to go to school once a semester and
Correct.
meet with the teacher and you get a progress report. Is this what this is now? This thing that you're talking about, this Google
Yeah.
meetings?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that you didn't know who would attend, you didn't know who would attend those meetings?
Not now. I don't remember 3 years ago who attended the Google meetings now.
But do you remember Brianna Micholo attending those meetings?
No.
Show you D10. Is that a letter you authored?
It is.
Is that your signature on it?
It is.
Did you provide that letter to Christopher Gregor?
Yes.
And in that letter, do you say that Christopher Gregor attends all of the meetings?
Yes.
Can you read that letter?
Corey Michelo is a student in my first grade class. Corey comes to school on time each day and is ready to learn. He is well kept and comes to school with everything needed for the day. We are currently working using a hybrid model. Corey always returns to school with classwork to check and complete additional assignments and attends on Google Meets. Corey is a very bright but active student who responds appropriately to redirection. He works cooperatively with his peers and teachers. Corey's dad, Mr. Gregor, has been actively communicating with me through emails and an app called Class Dojo. He also has attended meetings to discuss Corey's academic progress. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.
Okay, so you gave that letter to Christopher.
I did.
Okay. Now, you testify that Mr. Gregor told you in that Class Dojo that Corey was at a mass gathering out of state with the other parent. Am I right?
Correct.
You had no communication with the other parent, I'm assuming. Maybe I'm assuming wrong.
I did communicate with her a couple times, yes.
Okay. Prior to that day?
Prior to what day?
The day you got that?
No, this was very early in the school year that I sent this.
So now you notice the bruises on Corey when he comes back virtually, right?
Yes,
After you got a letter saying he's out of state with the other parent. Am I correct?
yes.
And who was the other parent?
Miss Michelle.
No further questions.
Can you redirect?
Thank you, Your Honor. You said, Ms. Peace, on cross, you agreed with one of the statements that counsel made that Corey was well kept.
Yes.
Did he always dress for the weather?
No, he didn't. I noticed him with long sleeves often, in those weird months in September, October, where, we all get our new school clothes, but they're winter clothes. So like he always had long sleeves on.
Directing your attention to, Judge, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Directing your attention to S41. Could you, can I just see it?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I want to make sure my question makes sense.
Ms. Strong, can I have my exhibit back?
Does S41 say that Corey's mom or the other side of his family? S41, the message from Christopher Gregor.
Right.
Does it say Corey's mom or the other side of his family?
Oh, it says the other side of his family.
And does it say that Corey went out of state, or did someone on the other side of the family go out of state and then Corey was around the person on the other side of the family that went out of state?
That's what it looks like. It's let's see, weekend after being at a mass gathering. So wait, I'm sorry. I just found out Corey's other side of the family had left the state and saw him this weekend after being at the mass gathering.
Okay, so if I characterize that as Corey being out of state, would I be mischaracterizing what that message says?
If
I characterize that message as saying Corey
right,
was out of state, would I be mischaracterizing?
It's whole opinion testimony. That's why you have an instruction on the message, on the statements. It's for you to determine whether it's credible and what you think it means. It's not for everybody to give opinions on what they think it means.
Ms. Peace, what does it say about whether Corey was out of state? The exact word.
I mean, have we gone over this enough?
I can move on, Your Honor.
Sustain.
Was this the first time that Corey had been taken out of school to go virtually for a quarantine?
no.
Could you tell me about how the first time went?
The first time he went on quarantine, I got a message from Mr. Gregor that
Don't tell me anything he has said. Did it go the same way?
no.
When you heard that Corey was going to be out of school on March 29th, did you let anyone else know that information?
I did.
Who did you let know?
I emailed our attendance person, our school nurse, his social worker, my co-teachers. It was like a mass email.
When did you speak with DCP&P in relationship to when you got the message about Corey being out of school?
I believe it was the 29th and 30th.
So the next day? For the next day or
Um,
2 days?
Yes.
And the letter that defense counsel presented to you, I believe that it was D10.
They have it. I don't have it anymore.
Thank you.
Judge, may I approach the witness?
Sure.
Thank you. Could you look at that again?
Yes.
Do you know when you wrote that?
This was approximately in October,
So, well before March 20th?
well
2021?
before.
Okay, thank you. I have no additional questions.
Can you rephrase based upon that?
Yeah, oh, yeah. So when you said he was well kept, that only applied up until October? So you're saying in September and October, he was well kept in that letter, right?
Correct.
And you just testified on cross-examination that he sometimes wasn't well kept.
I wouldn't say that wasn't the question. The question was he dressed for the weather? And I said no. In the warm days, he was often in long sleeves.
And maybe he was cold.
It was warm weather.
So then you're saying he wasn't well kept.
I'm just saying that he was wearing long sleeves in hot weather.
I'd like to do D9 and D10.
There's objection, Judge.
Judge, can we go sidebar about it, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm meeting exhibit D10 in evidence. That's the letter. D9 is the whole year, and that's beyond the scope of things. So D9 is not in evidence, but anything was testified to by the witness as to D9 would be evidence as a result of testimony that was given before you. Thank you. Mr. Glucci, any further questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing further to state?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
But ladies and gentlemen, another thing I discussed with the counsel at sidebar was whether or not there's another witness available this morning, and apparently there's not. They have one coming in hopefully at 1 o'clock. So we'll break a little early for lunch. Again, don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't discuss anything else. Don't do any research. Don't ask anyone to research anything for you. Don't look at any news articles and print or on media. Please go back to jury assembly.
Just wait your step.
We're going to have you testify and answer some questions outside the presence of the jury, and then I'll make a ruling, and then we'll have you back in, and we'll bring the jury in there as well. So we're going to swear you in now, and if we have you back in front of the jury, we'll swear you in a second time so they see that, okay?
Okay.
The court will swear you in. Could you raise your right hand?
solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give, have a seat, please, and please state your full name and spell both of your names.
Nancy, Nancy, Deacon, Deacon.
Thank you, Ms. Schrum.
Dr. Deacon, I'll just ask you, especially while the jury's here, but even now, there's microphones all over the courtroom picking up everything that I'm saying, that you're saying, that we're all saying. So I know it's hard, but as you talk, just keep your voice as loud as you can for the microphones, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, doctor. What is your present occupation?
I'm a general pediatrician, and I work in a newborn nursery at Ocean University Medical Center in Brick Township.
And what was required for you to become a pediatrician?
So I obtained my Bachelor of Science in nursing first, and then I got my Doctor of Osteopathy at the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey School of Osteopathic Medicine. Do you need a year?
Sure.
So I graduated in 1991, and then I had a pediatric internship from 91 to 92 at the JFK Hospital in Stratford, New Jersey, and then I had a 3-year pediatric residency at Monmouth Medical Center.
So the letters after your name are DO.
I'm a DO.
Have you had a career in anything other than as a pediatrician
I was a pediatric nurse for 10 years
prior to?
prior to medical school.
All right. And did you ever do anything other than practice medicine, or did you do anything privately, I guess, while you were practicing medicine?
Well, while I was practicing medicine in general practice, I also was a clinical assistant professor of pediatrics, first with Drexel University and then with Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. And I taught the pediatric residents at Monmouth Medical Center, in addition to teaching rounds and supervising their clinic. I also, with a clinical psychologist, took pediatric residents in their community rotation to the 180 Turning Lives Around program for the families affected by domestic violence in Monmouth County, and we advised mothers that had children in shelter. We provided a session with them once a month, and we also advised the clinical staff. And that was for about 10 years. And then we continued with our program of teaching communication, relationship building. We included the staff of that organization in our training till present. We continue to do that.
And prior to where you said that you work now, where were you employed?
I last was employed with Ivy Pediatrics.
And how did it come about that you became employed with Ivy Pediatrics?
Well, I worked for West Park Pediatrics right after I completed my pediatric residency for 12 years, and then I had my own practice in Toms River, Shore Touch Pediatrics, and then I sold my practice to Ivy Pediatrics in December of 2019.
And then you continued working?
I continued working in that practice in their Toms River office.
In 2021, do you know how many offices Ivy Pediatrics had?
They have had 5 offices.
All right. And in 2021, while you were working there, not when you owned it, do you know how many doctors there were is one of the offices in Toms River?
The office is still there in Toms River.
How many doctors in 2021 were in the Toms River
I was the
office?
main doctor, and there were other doctors within the practice that covered for me on my days off, and a physician assistant.
Did you have a patient while working there by the name of Corey Michelot?
Yes,
And do you remember Corey?
I do.
Did you see him for an appointment on April 1st, 2021?
I did.
And what was that appointment concerning?
It was an emergency appointment with concern about the bruises and other abrasions and things that he had, and concern that maybe he had been abused.
Did someone bring him in for the appointment?
Yes,
Do you know who that was?
his mother.
Okay. Do you know her name?
I'm
That's okay. And did she stay in the room the entire time?
Yes, while I was with them.
Do you remember about what time the appointment was that day?
It was about 5 o'clock when he was brought from the waiting area to the examination room.
And what did you do?
Well,
when you met
first,
with Corey?
the nurse brought him and his mother back where he was weighed and measured, and then he was brought to the examination room, and he had vital signs obtained. And once that was all done, that included the blood pressure, temperature, pulse ox, his respiratory rate, and his pulse rate. And then he was asked to take his T-shirt off. And when I came in, he was seated on the exam table, and his mother was seated at the in the exam room next to him.
Did you ask Corey any questions?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And without telling me yet, did he answer your questions?
He did.
And were his answers pertinent to your diagnosis and treatment of Corey?
Yes.
And were you trying to determine his symptoms and their general cause?
Yes,
Did you document that information anywhere?
I did.
And did Corey answer your questions?
He did.
Okay. And are you able to tell me exactly what Corey said?
Well, I would like to see my record because to be able to tell you exactly what he said.
Did you maintain any records for the patients that you had at IV Pediatrics?
We did.
Okay. What do you refer to those as?
It's his chart.
Okay. And in addition to information about the patient, do you also continue having your chart correspondence about the patient?
Yes.
Okay. And are all of those things helpful in the treatment that you
Yes.
give a patient?
Yes.
If I showed you your chart, would it help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach the witness, please?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Deacon, I'm approaching you with what's been marked for identification as test 42. Could you do me a favor and take a look at S42 for a moment and tell me if you recognize it?
I do.
What is S42?
S42 is Corey Michiola's chart.
And after taking some time to review Corey's chart, could you tell me if it helps refresh your recollection with regard to exactly what Corey said to you?
Yes, I can. Okay, so do you want me to tell you what his mother said as well, or just what Corey said?
Just what Corey said, please.
Corey says that he got the chest, arm, and hip bruises and forehead abrasion when he was playing football outside on turf. He said that his dad was teaching him how to catch a football. When I pressed him further, he said he got more bruises when he fell from a treadmill. He said that he had to run fast because his father said he was too fat.
Is that all that you recall Corey telling you during his visit with you
Yes.
on April 1st?
Yes.
And that statement was important to your treatment of Corey and your diagnosis of any possible medical conditions that he was suffering from.
Yes.
I have no additional questions, Judge.
Mr. Lewis.
And how are you, Doctor?
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
And
you.
you used those statements to assist you in treating people?
Yes.
Judge, I have no objection.
You have no objection to using any of those statements?
No. Well, the not too fat, but he was too fat, I object to, but I don't think it's gonna get me anywhere.
All right, so no further questions of the doctor.
No, thank you.
All right, so Dr. Reese, you step out, we'll take a few minutes, I'll make a ruling, we'll bring the jury in, we'll have you back in. Thank you for your patience, okay?
I'm so nervous. I'm like, what do I do?
You don't have to, you can sit down if you want. Yes. You don't have to go to the room.
All right, you can see everyone. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. We're going to proceed with the state's next witness. Ms. Strong.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would like to call Nancy Deacon.
Hi, doctor. Could you please face the reporter, ma'am, and raise your right hand, just right hand?
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have a seat, please. And state your name. Full name and spell both.
My name is Nancy Deacon, Nancy, Deacon, Deacon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Strong.
Good afternoon, Dr. Deacon.
Good afternoon.
What is your present occupation?
I'm a general pediatrician working in a newborn nursery at in Brick Township at the University Medical Center.
What was required for you to become a pediatrician?
So I first got my Bachelor of Science in nursing, and then I got a Doctor of Osteopathy at the University of Medical and Dentistry of New Jersey, School of Osteopathic Medicine, and that was 4 years. And then I had a 1-year pediatric internship at JFK Hospital in Stratford, New Jersey. And then I obtained my 3-year pediatric residency at Monmouth Medical Center.
Prior to your present employment, where did you work?
I worked with Ivy Pediatrics.
While you were in private practice, very generally, did you do anything else at that time period in the medical field?
Yes, once I've finished my residency, I continued to teach residents at Monmouth Medical Center, in addition to teaching rounds and supervising them in their clinic. We also, the clinical psychologist and I, them to the 180 Turning Lives Around program in Monmouth County that supports, brought them to a counseling that we provided for the mothers that had children in shelter.
Okay. Now, prior to becoming a doctor, did you have any experience in the medical field?
Yes, after I got my Bachelor of Science in Nursing, I spent 10 years being a pediatric nurse.
And so you're a DO.
DO, Dr. Vest, yeah.
All right. Now, what type of practice was Ivy Pediatrics?
It's a general pediatric practice caring for children 0 birth to actually age 25.
And prior to, or how did it come about that you worked for Ivy Pediatrics?
So after I finished my pediatric residency, I worked for West Park Pediatrics for 12 years. And then I started my own pediatric practice, Short Touch Pediatrics in Toms River. And I had that practice for 12 years. And then I sold my practice to Ivy Pediatrics, and I continued to work for them.
How many, in 2021, how many offices did Ivy Pediatrics have?
They had 5 offices.
And did that include your Toms River office?
Yes.
All right. And how many doctors worked in the Toms River office in 2021?
So I was the primary doctor located in that office. That's the only office I was located in. And then there were other doctors from the practice that covered me on my days off, and there's a physician assistant.
Back in 2021, did you have a patient named Corey Mitchell?
Yes.
Do you recall Corey's date of birth?
His date of birth was 5/1/2014.
Do you remember Corey?
I do.
And how many times had the practice seen Corey?
They saw Corey 3 times.
Out of those 3 times, how many times did you see Corey?
2.
Did Corey have a chart at Ivy Pediatrics?
He did.
Could you tell us what a chart is?
A chart is the medical record of all the visits that we see the patient, and any contact with the office that anyone makes with regard to this patient. So anything pertaining.
Is the chart helpful, or does it help you document your observations and assessments of a patient?
Yes, everything is in that chart.
And directing your attention to March and April of 2021, did Corey have an appointment to see you around that time?
Yes, he did.
And prior to seeing Corey, did you review his chart?
I did.
All right. When was his appointment for?
His appointment was for April 1st. I would probably like the chart, just if you're going to ask me about the chart, to have it.
Do you need your chart to help recollect what happened when you saw Corey?
Yes.
And the dates and times?
Yes.
Coach, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Deacon, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as S42. Could you take a look at it and tell me if you recognize it?
I do.
What is S42?
It's the chart for Corey.
And would having that chart aid you in your testimony before the jury today?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I leave the witness with her chart?
Any objection to that?
No, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what kind of appointment Corey had on April 1st, 2021?
He had an emergency sick visit.
Do you know when your office was first contacted by someone to make that appointment?
Yes, I can tell you now.
Are you referring to your chart?
I'm referring to my chart. And so this was on 3/30/2021.
Do you know who contacted your office on 3/30/2021 for the appointment?
Yeah, the mom called and she spoke to someone in the call, what we call the call center, which is our central message taking center.
Okay. And did anybody else, and I'm going to ask you to refrain from telling me what anybody else said to you, but did anybody else contact your office on behalf of making an appointment for Corey?
Yes.
And who else contacted your office?
DC, PNP.
And what time was the appointment on April 1st, 2021?
The appointment, and I'll refer to when we actually saw him. Was April 1st at 5:18 p.m.
Corey actually came to the appointment.
He came to the appointment.
And was he with anybody when he came to the appointment?
He was.
Who brought him to the appointment?
His mother, Brianna Asciola.
And when he was brought in for the appointment, where was he taken?
He was taken from our waiting area back to where we weigh. We have a weigh and measure station, and then brought into an exam room.
Where did you see Corey?
That's where I saw him, in the exam room.
Did you stay in the room for the duration of Corey's exam?
I did.
And was Corey's mom in the room for the duration of the exam as well?
Yes.
When it came time for you to perform your portion of the exam, other than the weighing and measuring, was anybody else in the room other than the people you described?
No.
And could you tell me what, if any, initial observations of Corey did you make?
So when I entered the room, Corey was sitting on the exam table. That's where he had been brought to get his blood pressure taken and his pulse and his breathing and his pulse ox. He was sitting there, and the nurse had asked him to take his shirt off. So he had his pants on and shirt off, and he was sitting quietly on the exam table. And his mother was seated in the exam room next to the exam table.
And did you make any initial observations when you walked in of how Corey looked?
Yeah, so as a pediatrician, we rely not just on what patients say, but how they're acting, because they don't, kids don't just tell you something hurts. A lot of times they don't, or they don't. So you're always looking from the very start. How are they sitting? How are they looking? Do they look alert? Are they looking bright? Before we set an eye, before we touch a patient, we're looking for all the evidence, everything we can get. And he was sitting quietly. He was breathing easily. He didn't look in any distress. And he just looked very serious. And I'd say, kind of contained, like stoic, kind of, just very sitting.
Did you observe Corey's mom?
And so she was sitting, and she looked just very worried and concerned.
Did you observe any interaction between Corey and his mom?
Well, he would look at her, and they would just look at each other, as I was asking first the mother. Now I'm gonna find out from them what is the history, like what's happened, or what are you worried about? So what we call, and she was listed as the independent historian. She was the one to give the history, as parents do, first.
Did you tell Corey anything about his visit with you that day or the purpose of his visit?
So based on, I do give children a chance to say what hurts or what's the problem or what happened, if it's an injury, how did you get hurt? So I did that, and he at first didn't want to say anything. Shake his head. No, I don't know. And so I explained to him that in order to help him, I had to know how he got hurt and what happened. And still he hesitated. So I said, Corey, we can't help you if we don't know what happened, and please, and don't worry, because I need to know so I can help you be safe.
And did Corey give you any response?
And so he looked at his mom, and she said,
You can't tell me what anybody else
okay.
said. But did Corey give you a response?
He did. He said that he got the chest and arm and hip bruises and the forehead scrape when he was playing football outside on the turf. And he said that his dad was teaching him how to catch a football. And when I pressed him further, that's a lot from playing football. He said he got more bruises when he fell from a treadmill.
And what was his demeanor while you were speaking with him and he was speaking with you?
Well, as he was explaining this, his mother teared up and started to cry, and then he got tearful as well.
Did you end up conducting an examination of Corey?
I did.
And could you tell me what that examination at first consisted of?
So I reviewed his what the nurses had found out, and he had a normal blood pressure. He had what we call a pulse ox test that tests on the finger his oxygen level. It was 98%. His pulse rate was 90, and his respiratory rate was 24. His temperature was 98.6, so it was normal, no fever. And I considered those vital signs normal for his age.
Did you go on to conduct an examination, like a general one, or ear, nose, and throat, or anything like that?
Yes, and I'm noticing here when I said my first thing is generally just look at them, and you had normal activity and normal interaction. I forgot he said, tell me that, I don't know, I have something in my notes that you might have missed.
Why don't you show it without speaking, so you show it to Ms. Strong, I'll cancel it. Please. I'm going to ask you to step in the jury room for just a couple minutes. As I indicated, there's sometimes things I need to address outside your presence. I thank you for your cooperation. We go back.
Okay, so I just realized that he puts one there at sidebar. So evidently he's listening to that. I am so sorry StreamYard is acting like this. It's really frustrating.
following type of statement could be admissible. A statement made in good faith of the declarant's then existing state of mind, emotion, sensation, or physical condition, such as intent, plan, motive, design, mental feeling, pain, or bodily health. So this typically means that someone who is presently saying, I'm in pain, reliable, people don't typically complain about something like that at a particular moment. And every exception to the hearsay rule is based upon an indicia of reliability. So here, I previously found that child statements about the cause
but that is why I did try to conduct the 104 hearing the way that I did, so all of it could be fleshed out.
I don't think your questions were remarkably different between the 104 hearing and her testimony before the jury. I don't think anything you did as a prosecutor was trying to limit it or avoid something coming out of the 104 hearing. I think her testimony.
Judge, I believe that portion of the testimony, or as the alternative that the court suggested, allowing us to cross-examine the differences in the 104 hearing. And just to clarify, if the court would strike all of the testimony from this doctor or allow us to impeach her through the 104 hearing testimony, if we can make reference to it, I think either of those would be acceptable.
All right, so anyone else, Mr. Gucci?
I personally would rather strike it, than allow me to cross-examine her on it. That would be my first preference.
All right, so evidentiary rulings are designed for the trial judge to exercise discretion based upon the particular facts and circumstances of the case. What the doctor described is virtually common knowledge. You come that's somewhat problematic. There's no transcript from it because it just occurred. You could perhaps try to handle it, but what I was thinking was similar to the limiting instruction on statements of defendant, I would give a limiting instruction to the jury at the conclusion of this doctor's testimony that there is, for their consideration in this case, oral statements allegedly made by Corey to the physician. Normally, hearsay statements are not permitted into evidence. However, statements made in good faith, and I essentially track the evidence rule, statements made in good faith of a person's then existing sensation or physical condition, including complaints of pain, as well as statements made in good faith for the purposes of medical diagnosis, describing medical history, past, present symptoms or sensation, their general inception, their inception or general cause, are admissible, and then to give that same instruction in considering whether or not Corey actually made these oral statements. You should consider and weigh this evidence with caution. You should take into consideration all the facts and circumstances, including whether the doctor prodded him to make any statements. If after consideration you determine these statements were not actually made or are not credible, then you must disregard them. If you find the statement was made and all or portion was credible, you give what weight you think to that portion of the statement you find to be truthful and credible.
In addition to me being able to cross-examine her.
Yeah, I think I need to give that limiting instruction, period.
Yes.
The question about the cross-examination, though, is what are you going to do when she says, no, I said that I was the same both times. Are you going to ask for a readback, or I don't know how we're going to handle that? All right, well, we should give the court reporter some time to look that up rather than just.
I understand that.
Madam Reporter, is that something you could do?
Sure, I can do, you just have to, when we go off the record, you can guide me a little bit. I have a couple minutes, Judge, to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. Let me step off.
Yeah, I just needed some keywords and exactly what you're looking for in the 104 hearing and then in this testimony.
Shortly after she was asked to identify S42, Corey's chart providing pediatrics, and that my notes of it, Corey said the bruises were caused by playing football. And then
And that's the
later said the
104.
bruises were from running on a treadmill. He was playing football with his dad, I think she said.
Is that in the 104 hearing?
That's in the 104. You hear the jury would have heard what you said in front of them.
I think he said.
All right, I'll step off for a couple minutes. Do that.
All right.
Judge.
The jury would have heard the testimony, so.
Before you step out, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can I step out to explain to my witness, I'm not going to tell her about this, I want to tell her that she cannot make any comments about that statement, or do you want me to wait to do that?
What's the defense position? In other words,
Tell her in the courtroom
about
too.
not-
I trust implicitly Ms. Sharp. So if she wants to go out and tell her not to elaborate on that statement, I don't have a problem with it.
I would agree with that because she was about to say, she wanted to say that statement. so she should
I
tell
was
everyone
trying to
it was out.
stop her from saying it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Was able to retrieve those portions of the record. Mr. Galucci, you were able to review those?
I reviewed it yesterday.
All right. So anything further before we bring back the witness and the jurors?
Your Honor, I gave the witness a direction outside as I described I would to the court.
Thank you. So it's not to say the promise, not to tell anyone statement, right?
I showed her the exact statement. I said, you cannot say this in court.
Thank you very much. All right, so might as well bring the doctor in first, we'll get the jury.
Your Honor, can I return the chart that she was using?
Any objection to that? No. All right, Doctor, we'll bring the jury back in. We're going to continue the questioning. Officer Bennett.
Jury out.
Please be seated, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience. We're going to continue with the testimony of Dr. Deacon. Ms. Shaw.
Doctor, I believe when we left off, I was asking you about the examination of Corey that you conducted. Could you please describe the examination that you performed on Corey?
Yes, so, as I say, he had normal activity and alertness, was sitting up without favoring anything. His eyes, when I say eyes were clear, I looked at the external, everything looked normal. The whites of his eyes looked normal. I looked inside his eyes with a ophthalmoscope and then into the back of his eyes. That was normal. I examined his ears, canal, and his tympanic membranes. The canals were clear. His throat was clear. He didn't have any redness of his throat. He had no signs of any viral. When I say viral stigmata, I mean he had no runny nose, no mucus. His neck, he could move it all directions. It was supple. He wasn't favoring it. and he had no what we call cervical adenopathy, meaning he had no enlarged lymph nodes anywhere on his neck. And the other thing that I look for when there's infection is if there's tenderness over the cheekbones, to look at the sinuses, and I checked them and they were not tender, and the other sinuses I palpated and there was no tenderness. I listened to his heart and it was a regular rate and rhythm. He didn't have any murmurs. He had normal heart sounds. And his breathing, I had already observed that he wasn't breathing fast or heavy. He wasn't sucking his, what we call labored, sucking his ribs in, making any effort. He was just breathing normally, quietly. And when I listened to him with a stethoscope, his lungs were clear. And he had what we call good air movement, meaning he had a full breath in and out. And I was particularly interested because some of I was interested in any rib injuries. In fact, I palpated all his, I had him lay down. I checked his abdomen. It wasn't distended. When I say HSMM, he had no enlargement that I could feel he didn't guard, because sometimes children don't tell you that things hurt. So I push hard and there was no tightening of his muscles. There was nothing, and I listened to his bowel sounds, and meaning I listened with a stethoscope, and they were normal. So everything was good with his bowels. As far as neurologic, he was alert. When I say oriented times 3, he knew where he was, he knew who he was and who he's with. Checked pupils, their reactivity, and his eye movements, all his cranial nerves. There was no drooping. Everything, when he moved his mouth, there wasn't any drooping. And then I went on to look at his muscular skeletal system. I also I noted all of the findings on his skin. I can talk about them now, or I can complete the rest of the exam and then talk about that.
Could you tell me about the rest of the exam first?
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure he didn't have any injuries to his muscles or bones. So I had him raise his arms up over his head, and he could do that. He could move them every way I wanted. He could, I had him get off the table and walk for me and jump up and down. Without any difficulty, without favoring anything. He had a normal gait. And I checked all his muscles, which for me is he has to hold him out. I got to push him down. He's got to push me away. Laying down, he has to show me he has good resistance of all his muscles. And so absolutely nothing that I was worried about with his muscles or his bones. He had no swelling. I had him stand on each foot, and he could bear weight, because sometimes you're even, so I made sure he had no problems with that. He had no swelling or warmth, anything that would suggest an infection of his of his skin, or any no swelling. And when I say no pain, with palpation of his chest, I push on all the ribs and all the bones to make sure that there wasn't any sign of rib or bone tenderness anywhere.
And doctor, were you making a pushing motion with your hands when you did that?
Yeah, so I'm making.
Is that in your rib area that
Yeah,
you're
all
doing that?
the ribs. I push every bone I can.
And up until that point, what you testified to so far, did you make any findings or discover any problems?
No, and then I did check his genitalia, and there was nothing, no problems or masses or abnormalities there as well. the abnormalities that I saw were on his skin.
And did you document that anywhere?
Yes, I did.
And where did you document?
I have a body, I used a body chart because to be able to show and be able to remember where I saw any lesions on his skin.
Judge, may I approach the witness?
Sir.
Dr. Deacon, I'm showing you what's been marked as S43 for identification. Could you take a look at it for me, please?
Yes,
Okay, do you recognize that?
I do.
What is that?
And this is my my body chart that showed that, and I have written down the lesions that I noticed on his body. It says I labeled it as 4/1/21 choriomesiola.
And when you say his, you mean Corey's body?
Corey's body, yes.
Okay. And does S43 accurately depict the observations that you made of Corey's body when he was at the visit at your office on April 1st, 2021?
It does.
Okay. Could you take me through the observations that were on Corey's body that you documented, please?
Okay, so I'm going to start the head and work my way down front side of his body first. Present on his left forehead was what I described as pink granulation tissue with a tiny scab. What that means is that there was dry pink tissue with a little scab.
Doctor, could you
I'm
just tell me
pointing
when you
to-
point to a body part where you're pointing on
Yeah,
your
so I'm
body?
pointing to my left forehead. Second, there was a blue-gray bruise over his left cheek, and I'm pointing to the bone right here on his left side of his face. Number 3 was a large yellow-green bruise, and that was located overlying his shoulder, his trapezius, and I'm pointing to my left shoulder right here. 4 was another large yellow-green bruise, and when we have the standing pose, the arms are like this, so it was on the left inner arm.
When you say standing like this, are you
Standing
with
with
your
my
arms
palms
out?
facing forward.
Okay.
The fifth thing that I noticed or that I wrote down was a blue bruise present over the elbow. I'm pointing to the inner aspect of the elbow overlying the bone. On 6 was on the right side of his chest, and it was 2 areas of what I called hyperpigmented skin, which was the skin was white compared to the skin of his, around him. So for me, that means that was a healing area that of healing skin where it's healed, but the pigment hasn't come back yet. 7 was my impression. The 7th was a linear scar. When I say linear, I mean like a line, and it was present on the right lower abdomen. Pink, and I called it a scar, pink scar. 8. These were superficial fresh scratches. They were located below the belly button, above the pubic bone in the center of his body. By superficial, I mean they looked, I called them fresh because you could see that they hadn't formed a scab. There was like a little bit of moistness to them that looked like a scratch that just happened or could have happened. 9 were blue bruises, and I made 3 circles, and they were located on the left lower leg, the front part of it overlying the shin. So the area where the bone, you can feel the bone on the lower leg. And then 11 and 10 and 11 were what I described as tiny scratches on the lower front of his ankles, between the foot and the lower part of his leg. Okay, so now located on the back, his back of his body, so he'd be facing this way with the palms. 12 was a large yellow green bruise, and that was located on the back of his lower arm, overlying this kind of fatty muscle tissue. And 14 was another large yellow-green bruise, and it was located at the waist. Now I'm talking about this left side, right here, kind of over this upper part of the glute muscle, over the soft tissue.
Doctor, are you turning around when you show
I'm
us
turning
that?
around and I'm showing you my back left side.
Is that everything that you have on your chart, doctor?
That's everything.
And were those 14
That was
areas of the body
14.
that you described?
Yeah, that last one was 14. Oh, and 13, did I describe 13? Was another bruise located on the elbow, on the back side of the, over that bony process of that arm.
Was that everything you did that was part of your examination then?
Yeah, that and just double check. That was all that was the extent of my exam.
Did you make a plan for Corey before he left your office?
I did. So, assessment is what we do after the physical exam. What is my assessment of Corey? And my assessment was normal bruises, numerous bruises with different stages of healing and healed abrasions, with a history of falling on a treadmill and getting hit with a football. Mostly over bony prominences, but some were over soft tissue areas.
What was the plan that you made for Corey?
So for me, there were bruises that you could explain, by the ones over bony processes, but falling, with the play that children do. There's common areas where we have bruises, and then there's areas over soft tissue that it takes more of a blow, more usually, to have that size of a bruise and that kind of injury. That's why I was trying so hard to make sure there wasn't any underlying bone, or just because they were so big. And so through my mind is, well, when you have those kinds of bruises, it takes either a bigger, harder force, or he might have a reason why he bruises easily. So I had said, I want to rule out any bleeding or clotting abnormality, because those children can have extensive bruising as well.
Did you make recommendations for Corey before he left your office?
Yeah, so I told mom that we needed to bring him right. He needed to go right to the hospital. That we had to be sure that he wasn't at risk for even worse bleeding, and his blood work. And honestly, from what I learned and what he said and my whole impression of this visit, that he needed further, even if the DCP&P hadn't been involved, I would have called them. But I thought I'll send him to the hospital for a further evaluation because he needed more careful evaluation and expert interviewing. That's not my role as a general pediatrician. He needed more care before I would consider him safe to go home.
When you finished with your examination of Corey and making recommendations, did you contact anybody about Corey and your recommendations?
I did. So I called, this is now 6 o'clock, it's getting late. And so I call when I have a concern, I have a careful record, but I wanted to also let them know what I was worried about. And so I called the emergency department physician. I had wanted him to go to Jersey Shore, but with time constraints from the mother, she did agree to take him right across the street from my office, not 5 minutes away, but community hospital. So I sent him there. I called the doctor that it was going to see him there. And I called Mark, the caseworker from DCP&P, who had asked to be called after my visit to discuss my findings and concerns.
And was that your last personal involvement with Corey Mitchell?
Yes.
I have no additional questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch.
How are you, Doc?
I'm okay.
Good? You have some pedigree. Would you agree with that?
I think I have a good education and
You had a BS in nursing, right?
mm-hmm.
Where'd you get that from?
Wilkes University.
Okay. Then you have a DO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's that from?
That's from the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, School of Osteopathic Medicine. At least that's what it was called then when I graduated.
And then you got a pediatric internship, right, from JFK Hospital?
Yeah, that DO, we have an internship as part of to get your official DO. So I did that. Yep.
Now, what's the difference between a DO and an MD?
Doctors of osteopathy get additional training in the soft tissue. We're in education about the connection of the mind and the muscles and how everything's connected and influence each other and how you can treat the whole body and person.
Then you have a pediatric residency, right?
Yes.
And where was that?
That was at Monmouth Medical Center, now the Unterberg Children's Hospital, Monmouth Medical Center.
And then you even taught, right?
And as part of that, I'm a teaching attending there. And I didn't also tell you I was a teaching attending at one time at Jersey Shore as well.
So how long did you teach for?
Well, I continue to teach residents.
What kind of residents were they?
They're pediatric residents.
And how long did you teach for?
I'm continuing, my entire career as a pediatrician.
So how many years was that? that you
So
were teaching?
I finished my residency in 95, and I'm still teaching, attending. I'm a clinical assistant professor at Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical Center.
So, go ahead.
Through my work particularly with residents at Monmouth Medical Center.
Now, you're teaching them how to be pediatricians, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're teaching them how to do what you just told this jury that you do, right?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, you had Ms. Schrein give you the chart, right?
Yes.
So you could review the chart,
Yes.
right? Because the chart is important, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure when you teach your students, you tell them how important it is to put information into that chart, right?
Yes.
Can you show me in your chart where you talk about what Corey told you, that you needed to encourage him to say that he was reluctant to say that to you, that you needed to prompt him, that you needed to show him he was safe? Can you show me anywhere in that chart when you wrote it, that you wrote those things, that, by the way, I would believe are important in an evaluation by a doctor who's asking about child abuse? Where is it in that chart, in that assessment?
So I did not document exactly what I said to Corey.
And as a matter of fact, 10 minutes before this jury walked into this room, did you testify at a hearing in this courtroom?
Yes.
Okay? And when you testified at the hearing in this courtroom, Ms. Schroen asked you a number of questions about that report. Did she not?
She did.
And did you at any time during that questioning, before the jury was in this room, say anything about that you had to prompt Corey, you had to encourage him, he was reluctant to answer the questions? Did you say that one time?
I thought I said that he was reluctant. When I asked him, he hesitated. I believe that's what I said. He hesitated. I didn't say in the record that he hesitated. I said just what he said.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can probably figure out, there are times that I do a hearing outside your presence. You shouldn't draw any conclusions from that hearing other than a statement made by a witness on a prior occasion can be used in questioning the witness on a subsequent occasion. Other than that, you shouldn't speculate about anything that was done in that hearing or what my purpose was in doing it. Thank you.
Do we have a copy of the minutes from the hearing so we can have a readback of what she testified to?
Objection, Judge.
Can we go sidebar?
Ladies and gentlemen, the objection is overruled. I'm going to allow Mr. Galucci to have the reporter read back some portion of the doctor's testimony that occurred earlier today outside your presence on the position of defense counsel that the doctor's earlier testimony was inconsistent with her testimony before you. Whether or not it's inconsistent is for you to decide, and what weight to put it on is for you to decide. Had that testimony been some time ago, we would probably have a transcript of that. It was just today. We don't have that, so we're going to use this procedure where the reporter reads it back. Thank you.
This is a question by Ms. Strome during this hearing. Question, Dr. Deacon, I'm approaching you with what's been marked for identification as S42. Could you do me a favor and take a look at S42 for a moment and tell me if you recognize it? Answer, I do. Question, what is S42? Answer, S42 is Corey Michelo's chart. Question, okay, and after taking some time to review Corey's chart, could you tell me if it helps refresh your recollection with regard to exactly what Corey said to you? Answer, yes, I can. Question, okay, so do you want me to tell you what his mother said as well, or just what Corey said? Question, just what Corey said, please. Answer, Corey says that he got the chest, arm, and hip bruises and forehead abrasion when he was playing football outside on the turf. He said that his dad was teaching him how to catch a football. When I pressed him further, he said that he got more bruises when he fell from a treadmill.
Give the reporter a minute to get back to where it was on the record. You ready? You're wonderful for doing that so quick. Mr. Galucci.
I'm gonna move on. You evaluated him, right?
I did.
And you found a number of bruises. And you made a bruise chart, right?
Yes.
And the young man told you that he was involved in 3 different activities. He told you that he received some bruises from playing football, right?
Yes.
He received some bruises from when his father was teaching him how to catch a football.
Well, that's the only thing that I said in my note, that he was teaching his father. I didn't have any other. I had 2 activities, actually, that he told me.
So, doctor, please keep your voice up, okay? Remember, the jurors in the back of the room have to hear you, okay?
I said that I described 2 activities that he told me about.
Well, it says here, this is your report. Corey says he got his chest, arm, hip bruises, and forehead abrasion when he was playing football outside on turf, number 1. He said that his dad was teaching him how to catch a football, number 2. When I pressed him further, he said he had more bruises when he fed from the treadmill. To me, that's 3.
Well, my impression, what he was talking about was playing football with his dad. He wasn't described that way, but that was my impression.
Okay.
I know of no other time he was playing football.
So, you know he fell off the treadmill.
Yes,
Okay. As you sit here now, you know he fell off the treadmill.
yes.
And do you know the date that was?
I don't know when he fell from the treadmill.
Okay. If I told you that he fell off the treadmill on March 20th and you're evaluating him on April 1st, would you agree with me that that's about 10 days later?
Yes,
If you said, did he tell you when he was playing football with his dad?
no,
Okay. Do you know when he was playing football
No.
with his dad? Okay. So let's go through the bruise chart. By the way, you're seeing him on April 1st. You didn't evaluate him on March 20th, March 21st, March 22nd,
that's correct.
right? You didn't see any activity he did on March 21st, right?
Correct.
You don't know if he played football in the park with his father, am I correct? You don't know if he was in the custody of his mother, Brianna, during any of that time, do you?
I don't know where he got those bruises.
Okay. So when you made your little chart here, and you identify number 1, pink granulation tissue with tiny scab, can you tell this jury if you can attribute that to a treadmill, a fall when he was with his mother, learning how to catch a football with his father, or a football tryout for flag football?
I can just estimate when he might have, by the healing process, when it might have happened. That's
So-
what I meant by varying stages.
So a pink granulation tissue with a tiny scab. I'm not a doctor, but I would assume a scab means that it's,
It's been probably over a week to, to 10 days, yeah, that
Okay.
it's healing. It's a,
so on your chart, you have a number of different things, right?
right?
And you can't tell anybody here when they occurred or how they occurred.
No, I can just say that there's yellow-green, which is later, anyone's had a bruise, it goes through stages of healing, and that would be a later stage of healing. It's hard to know exactly how long. and blue-gray are more recent. Again, several days, you can't really, I just describe what I saw.
And you have actually 15 circles on your chart. Look in the middle of his chest above his left nipple. You don't have a number 15 documented on
Oh,
your
yeah,
side.
on, down here, it says hypopigmented skin. Again, that's an area. I can't say, did he have hypopigmented? I can't, I'm just telling you that it's skin where there's no pigment around it. Sometimes that's the way skin heals. I can't tell you if he had it before. I objectively put what he had.
Do you know if he was on any medications?
No, I don't have that history that he was.
Did you order any lab reports?
No, I did not. I sent him to the hospital.
I understand, but you didn't do, I can answer the question, right? Did you order any lab?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you have the potential to do x-rays there?
No,
So you just basically did a physical examination?
yes,
Noted your findings?
yes.
Noted what Corey told you?
Mhm.
And then said, you know what, take him across the street to the experts?
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you. Any regret?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Doctor, thanks so much for coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you an instruction on the testimony you heard from the doctor regarding statements allegedly made by Corey. There has just been for your consideration in this case, oral statements allegedly made by Corey to the doctor. It is your function to determine whether or not those statements were actually made by Corey, and if so, whether those statements or any portion of them are credible. Normally, our evidence rules would not allow statements by one witness about what another person said. However, there are certain exceptions to that, which allows those statements to be admissible for your consideration, but you're to give it the way you deem it appropriate. For instance, a statement made in good faith by a person about that person's then existing state of mind, emotion, sensation, or physical condition, including mental feeling, pain, or bodily health, can be admissible. Likewise, a statement that is made in good faith for the purpose of or is reasonably pertinent to medical diagnosis or treatment and describes medical history, past or present symptoms or sensations, their inception or their general cause is admissible for your consideration. In considering whether or not any of those oral statements allegedly made by Corey were in fact made, and if made were credible, you should receive, weigh, and consider this evidence with caution based upon the generally recognized risk of misunderstanding by the hearer or the ability of the hearer to recall accurately the words used by the person. The specific words used and the ability to remember them are important to the correct understanding of any oral communication because the presence or absence or change of a single word may substantially change the true meaning of even the shortest sentence. You should therefore weigh, receive, and consider such evidence with caution. In considering whether or not the statements were made by Corey, and if made, whether they were credible, you should take into consideration the facts and circumstances to how the statements were made, as well as all the other evidence relating to this issue, including any prodding by the doctor during her questioning of Corey. If, after consideration of all these factors, you determine that Corey did not make the statement, or if made, the statement or any portion of it was not credible, then you must disregard the statement completely. If, on the other hand, you find that Corey did make all or part of the statements to which the doctor testified and that they are credible, you may give what weight you think appropriate to those portions of the statements you find to be truthful and credible. Again, I'll give you that instruction at the very end of the case when I give you my final charge. So I discussed with the lawyers the scheduling. As you know, scheduling medical professionals can sometimes be difficult, so I believe the state does not have another witness today. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. And you're going to have more medical professionals tomorrow?
Yes, Judge.
All right. So I think we didn't want to have a medical professional sitting here waiting and then not get to that person. So That's why the state didn't have someone else available for today. As I indicated to you, it's not an exact science. You're never quite sure how long someone's going to take. And obviously, people that are in medical practice, you can't just have them sitting around for hours. So I appreciate your patience in this regard. We're going to excuse you for the day and ask you to come back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Again, please don't do any research. Please don't discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Continue to tell your immediate family or your employer that your injury service is going to continue for the next few weeks. Don't go media, Facebook, Instagram, any of those type of things. Don't have anyone do it for you. If someone tries to talk to you about that, don't discuss it with them. If someone does say something to you, don't tell your fellow jurors. Report it to me tomorrow, and then we'll address it at the time. Don't try and do any investigation. Again, you're not investigators. You're here to be jurors to decide the case solely from the evidence introduced in the court. Anything further from counsel before we dismiss the jury for the day?
No, Judge, thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. Please take your electronic devices.
Which one do I get today?
Whichever one you want.
No,
It's taken forever to unmute me and mute me. I am so sorry for all the StreamYard errors. I'm going to have to learn Restream or something and leave StreamYard alone. Thanks for watching with me. We heard from Corey's mother and his pediatrician today for day 2. Tomorrow I won't stream day 3. I have a doctor's appointment during the day, and then I have work tomorrow and tomorrow night. So Saturday I only work at night, so I'll stream day 3, and then we'll go on, and then we'll be a day behind. So I thank you all for watching with me through all the errors. I really, really thank you for sticking with me. Please hit that thumbs up, share for me, please, and subscribe if you haven't. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you later. Bye.